Is GM going to cease making EVs, aiming to create 400,000 electric vehicles by mid-2024? GM said last month that it was giving up on its plan to stop selling gas-powered automobiles by 2035, this coming year. Jacobson said on Thursday GM would see a meaningful increase in EV production. We do still expect to have 1 million units of EV capacity by 2025, he stated. Hyundai has declared its support for its impending electric vehicle plans following a record-breaking Q3 profit. Despite recent delays in achieving electrical vehicle goals by a number of well-known automakers, including Ford and GM, action was taken. Hyundai Motors, which owns the Kia and Genesis brand, revealed its Q3 figures, which demonstrated robust profit growth. With a 146% increase from the previous year, the South Korean car maker reported a record Q3 operating profit of $2.8 billion, 3.82 trillion South Korean wons. The operating margin from Hyundai increased to 9.3% from 4.1% from previous year. Net profits increased to $2.4 billion, 33 trillion South Korean won, more than doubling in interim. The quarter's revenue increased by 8.7% to over $30 billion, 41 trillion South Korean won. The Korean Economic Daily claims that Hyundai surpassed Samsung Electronics to become Korea's highest earner because of the expansion. Hyundai attributed the growth to increased sales of electric vehicles, SUVs, and Genesis brands. The corporation saw a 33% growth in sales of electrified vehicles, including hybrid vehicles, to over 169,000 last year. Hyundai anticipates that the enhanced manufacturing and increased demand for the brand will keep the sales momentum going even with EVs. The South Korean car maker anticipates that sales of its Ioniq 5 and Ioniq 6 dedicated EVs will rise, though it will continue to strengthen its global leadership in EVs. In new international markets, Hyundai will also introduce more models such as the Hyundai Kona EV, Genesis GV60, electrified G80, and electrified GV70. By 2030, the business intends to introduce 31 EVs under the Hyundai, Kia, and Genesis brand, one of which will be soon to be three-row Ioniq 7. Despite some manufacturers cutting their EV output, company leaders stated that Hyundai has no plans to do the same. GM stated earlier this week that manufacturing of the GMC Sierra EV, Equinox, and Silverado RST will be delayed. The decision, according to the corporation, will protect pricing while increasing profits going forward. In the summer, Ford said that it will postpone its goal of 600,000 electric vehicles to the following year, stating that EV adoption will be a little slower than expected. The American car maker further disclosed that it would eliminate one of the 3 shifts at the F-150 Lightning Rouge EV facility in Michigan. In an effort to match Tesla's price reductions throughout the year, Hyundai and Ford recently reduced their prices in the US. Ford recently unveiled new incentives for the F-150 Lightning and Mustang Mach-E in an effort to boost sales until the end of the year. Earlier this month, Hyundai reduced the lease costs for the Ioniq 5 and Ioniq 6 in the US, providing some of the lowest terms since the model's introduction. Additionally, the business disclosed that 99.9% of the foundation work at its Georgia EV and battery plant is finished. Although Hyundai is rushing the project to get the IRA EV tax credit sooner, production is not slated to until 2025. The largest market for Hyundai is the US. Hyundai intends to push forward with its EV plans in spite of Ford and GM's postponement. Hyundai outsold Ford and General Motors, its 2 American competitors, with 20,962 and 20,092 cars sold respectively. Volkswagen even outperformed GM, selling 20,295 units in the same time frame. The Hyundai Motor Group, which comprises the Hyundai, Kia, and Genesis brand achieved notable results despite not being eligible for the $7,500 federal tax credits. According to reports, Hyundai will soon become an even more formidable competitor in the EV market thanks to the applicable tax incentives once it begins local manufacture of its mainstream models in the USA. Abruptly, the focus shifted from the upcoming models of electric vehicles to whether or not purchasers truly desired an EV. It appears that the shift resulted from business decisions made from significant EV supporters to reduce the manufacturing of battery-powered vehicles and lower expectations. Following years of putting all in on the EV agenda, General Motors applied severe brakes. First, there was a stop on the Chevy Bolt EV and EUV, followed by an unclear delay on a number of EVs. Honda and GM ended their EV partnership. Ford has lowered its ambitions for the EV factory and batteries. What's more telling is the long-awaited $30,000 electric SUV from Chevy's price rise and delay. The final price of the Equinox EV will now be $34,995. A front-wheel drive launch edition priced at $48,995 will be made available in 2024. There is no chance of a pickup truck that is reasonably priced, even if the anticipated beginning price for Tesla's elusive Cybertruck continues to rise. Ford is currently concentrating on a $70,000 flash version of the F-150 Lightning, which made its debut as a $40,000 truck. There are currently two Chevrolet Bolt EV variants produced in the Orion Assembly Factory. However, both are being phased out. GM started the manufacture of the Chevrolet Bolt EV, and Bolt EUV will conclude at the Orion site on schedule at the end of 2023. At Factory Zero, where the GMC Hummer EV, Chevrolet Silverado EV, and Cruise Origin multi-passenger shuttles are produced, production of GM's other EVs will continue as planned. Additionally, Factory Zero will construct the upcoming Cadillac Escalade IQ and GMC Sierra EV. GM stated in January 2022 that it will be investing over $7 billion in 4 Michigan manufacturing facilities to increase its capacity for producing battery cells and electric vehicles. $4 billion of the enormous investment went into expanding Orion Assembly's capacity to produce electric trucks, including spaces for battery assembly. However, GM and rival Ford have had difficulty increasing the production, profitability, and sales of EVs. GM reported delivering just 18 Silverado EVs and 19 Blazer EVs in the third quarter of 2023, despite the fact that its U.S. deliveries increased 21% year over year to 674,336 vehicles. In Q3, GM shipped 3,018 Cadillac Lyriq SUVs and 1,167 Hummer EVs. Conversely, GM's Bolt models are its best-selling electric vehicles. In Q3, GM delivered 15,835 Bolt EVs, a 7.7% increase over 14,709 units during the same period last year. Deliveries of the two Bolt variants combined so far this year total 49,494, up from 22,012 units during the same period last year. Sales of Bolt EV have increased by 124.9% in the past year. Nevertheless, General Motors is sticking with its intention to phase out both Bolt models, hoping that buyers will switch to alternatives like the Chevy Equinox EV, which goes on a scale this autumn and is expected to cost about $30,000. GM CEO Mary Barra attributed the automaker's sluggish EV ramp-up in July to problems with its automation equipment provider. Additionally, Ford is reassessing its EV intentions. The business announced last month that it was going to halt development on its $3.5 billion battery facility located in Marshall, Michigan. In Q3, Ford only sold 3,503 F-150 Lightning pickups. Even with its revised EV production schedules, General Motors still intends to have more than 1 million EVs available in North America by the end of 2025. By 2030, GM plans to convert 50% of its North American assembly capacity to electric vehicle manufacturing to enable corporate executives to concentrate on current labor negotiations with the UAW. GM postponed its Investor Day event on November 16 in addition to the delays in EV production. At this critical juncture in its electrifying efforts, the U.S. as per MotorIntelligence.com, over 1 million new electric vehicles have been sold in this country so far this year. According to the auto industry consulting organization, through November, EV sales made up 7.5% on all U.S. sales. Since transportation accounts for a significant portion of greenhouse gas emissions, experts argue that this number needs to increase quickly in order to combat climate changes. In October, General Motors announced that it was going to give up on its target of producing 400,000 electric vehicles between 2022 and mid-2024, citing a one-year delay in the manufacturing of electric pickup trucks at its Orion Township, Michigan factory. Additionally, GM abandoned a $5 billion partnership with Honda Motors to work together on developing inexpensive EVs in October. Ford has already said that it will no longer strive to produce 2 million electric cars by 2026. This recent action coincides with automakers' growing reluctance to embrace electric vehicles in the long run. The CEO of Honda, Toshihiro Mibe, told Bloomberg that the business was quitting its efforts to develop a cost-saving electric vehicle, and General Motors has also given up on its goal of producing 500,000 vehicles by the first half of 2024. Ford Executive Chair Bill Ford stated that the company was reducing EV manufacturing mostly due to high prices in a recent interview with the New York Times. That's all for today. If you liked this video, please give us a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that bell icon to receive notifications. Also, express your valuable thoughts in the comment section below. Until then, bye. Also, spend some time watching other videos on the channel.